Hello everyone! I am sharing my favorite books of 2020. I'm very excited. I am splitting this kind of into two videos, so this is going to be the fiction version, and then I will be doing a non-fiction version as well. So that will be coming. So these are just my favorites of the fiction books that I read. And it was hard-ish to pick my favorites. I rated a lot of books 5 stars this year, or in 2020. I wouldn't say I give out 5 stars really easily, but I think, I don't know, I have no explanation. I just really enjoyed some of the books that I read. So I chose 15 of my top favorite books, and I sat down to try to rank them, and I really cannot rank them. I don't even know how to pick what my favorite one of all of them is. Just so you know, it was hard to pick, and I did not rank them because I could not. They would have all been jumbled at the top. So I'm just going to talk about them in the order that I read them, in reverse order. How do we feel about that? So I'm going to talk about the most recent one that I read up to the ones that I read in January. So first of all, I read a new favorite Christmas story this year, and I have to share it because I truly loved it. Also, I'm sorry about the lights kind of making that glare. There we go. Okay, so my favorite Christmas book that I read, I gave this 5 stars, I loved it, is called The White Christmas Inn by Colleen Wright. It's probably a combination of the time that I read it and the mood that I was in, but I mean, that's what it's all about, right? So this book follows a struggling bed and breakfast kind of hotel, kind of lodge in place. And this couple is like, this is gonna be our last Christmas. We need to sell this place. Like we can't keep it open. So they have one last event planned. A massive snowstorm blizzard hits, as they do, and it brings other people to the inn because they have to get off the road, and the inn's kind of in its own secluded place, and so a couple more people join, and you follow several perspectives, like all the people that are staying at the inn plus the owners, and it just was such a pleasant, cute, wholesome book. And each person had their own struggle, each person had like a life story that they were working through, and yes, everything is resolved basically in a nice little bow at the end, but that's what I loved, and it was really enjoyable, and I loved it. So the next book that I want to talk about is Stay With Me by Becky Wade. This is her latest release. This is the first book in a new series that she's starting, and this came out in 2020, so I bought it, and I just know that I really like Becky Wade's writing. I like her characters, and I like the way that she weaves faith into her stories, and I think she's just really good at writing relationships. Depending on the situation, like this one is a little bit more risque, you could say, because the girl is actually addicted to prescription drugs, and so it follows the story of her breaking that addiction, and the guy that she meets is part of that process. All right, my books are falling. The next one that I have to talk about is Midnight Sun by Stephenie Meyer. And yes, I loved this book because I loved Twilight growing up. And reading this was perfect because it's everything that I would want from Twilight now. It's all of the in-between moments that we never got to see. And Edward is very smart and very insightful, so I love that about him, and I really enjoyed reading all of it. And so I loved this book. I do not think it was unnecessary. I do not think that it was boring. I truly loved this book. In the end, she said this is a gift to her followers, so I appreciate that, and whether it needed to exist or not, I think she did it for us in 2020, and so I'm grateful. Okay, the next one up is A Curse So Dark and Lonely by Brigid Kemmerer. I loved this. It's one of my perfect stories because it's about this girl who like doesn't care about romance, and she just knows what she wants, and she wants to be back with her family. And then you have this very sweet prince who is just trying to do right by his kingdom, do right by himself, do right by her, but he has these like habits that she calls him out for, and it's just a great dynamic. The little fantasy bits were fun. They were not that involved. They were more involved at the end, I guess, and at the beginning. Actually, all throughout. I don't know. There's an evil sorceress that I really don't like, and it's just too bad, but we'll see how it goes. It is a Beauty and the Beast retelling, and it's a really fun one. Okay, we're going through all my physical books. I guess I read a lot more ebooks at the beginning of the year. So the next one is The Testament by John Grisham, and honestly, this is probably a strong contender for my favorite book of the year. I loved this book because it came out of nowhere for me. It was so unexpected, and I was so pleasantly surprised because it has faith in it. It turned into such a, I feel like it's a character analysis / commentary on humanity, and I loved it. And yeah, the faith in it actually was a huge part, and I loved it. And then all of the like lawyery, inheritance, will stuff was actually really entertaining because it was so funny. It's a funny book, but it's a deep book. It's about like finding the will to live again, and it's about like not caring about money. And it's about just like helping people in their need that's in front of you, like not having such a big agenda for your life. I don't know, man. It was really good. So my next favorite is Silenced by Dani Pettrey. This is book 4 to the Alaskan Courage series. It's a 5-book series, and 1, 2, and 4 are my favorite 5 stars, and then 3 and 5 got 4 stars, so like whatever, but I wouldn't consider them favorites. But yeah, this book 4 is a favorite because I really liked the 2 main characters we were following. I loved their dynamic, and then also I loved the mystery and everything that happened and stuff like that. It was just really fun. So yeah, this follows Caden. She is a sister in this family, Jake and Caden. And I really liked them leading up to this book, and I was excited to read a book about them, and then it did not disappoint. So yeah, 5 stars, loved this book, definitely a favorite. And then also Shattered, this is book 2. I also gave this 5 stars. I really just loved the characters and the storyline, and that's what made it 5 stars. And this was just a great follow-up to the first book, and so I loved it. But honestly, I think, I actually might say the second book is my favorite in the series, but this is a pretty close contender just because it's the first one. It's the one that made me fall in love with Dani Pettrey and this whole series. So Submerged is book 1 in this Alaskan Courage series, and it follows this family that is from Alaska, and they're all search and rescue volunteers. So they do scuba diving for that. So that's cool. And you follow like a different mystery in each book. Some of them like continue on into the next one. And it just was a really fun series. I fell in love with it. It was my first Dani Pettrey. This would also be a contender for my favorite of the year because I just loved it. Like after this book, I read the whole rest of the series all in one go because I was obsessed. It was so good. It is pretty heavy on the romance, which I like. Okay, my next one also came out of the blue. Here we go. The Silent Governess by Julie Klassen. This is a historical fiction story about this girl who's on the run, and there's like a pretty big mystery in this book about a couple different things, but it follows, she is on the run and she like stumbles onto this property and she's like hiding outside of a window, and she overhears like a pretty big secret of this family, and the family catches her and they're like, you can't leave now, like we can't trust you to not spread this secret, so you're gonna pretend that you're mute, you're not gonna speak, and we're gonna make sure that you don't say anything about this secret, and you're gonna come work for us. So that's how it's gonna go. And she was like, okay, because she needed somewhere to go anyways. So so you follow her at this house, and she has a romance with the son, and it's really cute. It's really cute. And the day-to-day stuff that usually I find boring, I didn't find boring this time. Also because the faith in it was very strong, and I loved that. Like, I think the faith was really good, and so that definitely bumped it up for me. It was a good time. And then the mystery was like pretty good. There was a couple mysteries, and they all got figured out, and it was very satisfying. So, okay, next up is Eve by William Paul Young. This is a fiction story that has kind of alternate realities in it. Very strong metaphor, and like a bit of speculative biblical speculation. Is that a thing? So he's writing about this girl who washes up on the shore of this place. Don't really know where it is, but it's a place. And the people in this place like nurse her back to health. So that's kind of like the main dimension, I want to say, that you follow. But then you also follow her dream state reality. And then you also follow something else later that you will find out later. So, like, you can tell that she's been traumatized by something, but she doesn't remember all of it. So it's kind of her figuring out what happened to her and why she's so traumatized. And then she also, when she's dreaming, she gets taken to the beginning of time when God is creating the world. And she gets to watch him create creation. And then eventually she ends up in the Garden of Eden with Eve. And they're both like watching it happen, like with God and Adam. And it was fascinating. It was beautifully written. I would say it took a little bit to get used to where we were, because it didn't feel like we were in any like actual physical reality at any time. Even her time at the community felt dreamlike. It just was so thick with metaphor. I was like, are they talking literal here or not? Not really sure. But ultimately, like, the end reveals everything, and I thought it was beautiful. And it's really about the Heavenly Father's heart for women and how loved we are and how equal we are to men. And I thought it was just beautiful. It wasn't meant to put men down. It was just bringing women up. And so I loved that. I thought it was amazing. So yeah, definitely a favorite. Okay, I had to adjust a little bit. My back was getting sore. I slouched too much. Okay, next, I'm really excited about this one. It is A Girl's Guide to the Outback by Jessica Kate. Oh, I loved this one. I don't know, it's really good. So this is a Christian romance, but it was something I'd never read before, because you follow these two business partners and the guy ends up leaving because he's like, I just don't get your vision, your ideas, like we don't work well together, I need to leave. And he is originally from Australia, so he moves back to Australia and he's on his farm with his sister and his mom. And then you follow the girl who the company's like, we need him, like he was a good asset, so either go get him back or ask him to at least come and train our next guy, because we can't do this without him. So they send her over there, and her mission is to either convince him to come back or to like ask him to train the next person. And that's what it is. So mostly it's set in Australia, which was super fun, on a farm. His sister is like a pretty prominent character, and I loved that because she was really spunky and she kind of had a side romance as well going on, which was really fun. The faith was so solid for both of the characters. There is a moment that the girl has in a truck that I will never forget. Like, she's just crying out to God and he meets her there, and it's just beautiful. And I loved it. It was really funny. And it was just funny to see like a city girl trying to make it on a farm. I just kind of think that's a funny storyline. And so I really enjoyed it. 5 stars. Okay, before that, I read Chance of Loving You by 3 different authors, Terri Blackstock, Candace, Calvert, and Susan May Warren. And I loved every story in this. What a solid novella collection. These are all just Christian romance, but oh, they were all so good. And Terri Blackstock's was my favorite. I think she's really good at writing short stories, because like her Christmas book is like shorter as well, and I think she's just really good at it. I would totally read it again. It's just 3 cute love stories, but they're more than just like, oh, everything's fine and great. Like, they were about something interesting, and I wanted to just keep reading. I loved it. So yeah, totally recommend this. Definitely 5 stars. Okay, and now we have come to the last 3, which is the whole Mark of the Lion trilogy. I gave all of these 5 stars, and I loved every single one. And you know what? Now that we are here, I think my favorite book of the year is An Echo in Darkness by Francine Rivers, because the faith themes, when something can like speak to your life and encourage your heart so directly, there's just something really special about that. So yeah, I am saying that this is my favorite book of 2020, and I read it in January, which is kind of crazy, but all of these books are my favorites though. I would recommend all of them. I loved all of them, but if I had to pick one, I would probably pick this book. The hope of salvation in this book, the journey of faith, like, we need to know that there is no place we can go that God won't find us and won't save us. And I definitely needed to know that this year. So there we go. It's done. Those were 15 of my favorite books of the year. I had a great reading year. I love all of these books. These are books that I want to reread for sure. Like, what a good time these books were. So I hope you have some recommendations from this, and thank you for watching. Thank you for sticking with me, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye.